was right on the 20th. Why? Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. I don't know why I paid for you. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome to another installment of Night Court, where we're doing Wisconsin v. Chandler Halderson. Brrr. What a creep. What a creep. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome back for those of you who have been with me for a couple of weeks. Welcome to any newbies who are here. Also, returnees who haven't been around for a little bit. Let's say hello to some folks, shall we? Teresa, welcome back. Welcome back to Night Court. As you can see, I've kind of upscaled some stuff. Ideally, it will continue to stay upscaled, but you never know. We've run into plenty of kinks along the way, and far be it from me to kink shame. So I'm so glad you're here. So hello to you. Hello, Llama. Hello, Captain. Hello, Amy. Amos. Amos. Hello, Miss Linda. Thanks for being here. I hope everybody had a good day, too. What's up, Shunka? I don't know if you can actually hear this when I play it.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, no, it's bacon!
I'm assuming you can. It looked like it moved. So, hello, Shunka. Hello, Amy. Let's see who else we got. Y'all are having quite the conversation. Hi, Miss Nan. It's a matter of trying to remember everybody that I said hello to. And, yep. That is the safest way to do it. No texting for you right now. That is safe. Is my mic still not working right? Oh, remember what I said about the whole kinks thing? Hello, Angie. What's wrong with my microphone? It sounds odd. Okay. What does that mean? Echo. That's funny because I'm not even getting an echo. Any better? I don't know. I don't quite understand why there's an echo. Why? How about now? Is now better? Better, yes? Okay, listen, y'all are giving me all kinds of mixed signals. It's like when I was dating. So I don't know. It's not very loud. Okay, well, that we can fix. I can fix that. I can fix that. How about now? Is it louder? It's a little fuzzy. I'm getting fuzzy and louder and all kinds. Okay. It sounds fine in my headset. I don't know. Everybody's like, it's good. It's good. Just move on, JT. Just move on. Okay, I'll move on. We got some cool stuff for tonight. Some things that we're just gonna kind of make up as we go. We're gonna bring back something. And then before we get to court, I want to chat with. I want to show you some memes. I ran across some hysterical memes that I think you will find funny too. And if you don't, I'm sure you'll let me know. So, let's hop into a little bit of memeage, shall we? I'm gonna need to make my camera smaller. Okay. I know it's stupid news, but who cares? That's accurate. And if you don't believe that, then sorry. I'm telling you, I was this close. I was this close to doing it. Just sometimes I feel like I've got to reset myself. Yeah, I'm not responsible for where it's from. I'm just responsible for finding funny memes. So tell me that that's not true. Sure, bro. Yes, I am as close to a bro as, yep, the opposite. No one. The History Channel at 3 a.m. It doesn't even sound legit when I say bro. Bruh. Step up to the plate, bro. It's not gonna, not flying. It's just not working. Me thinking about the food I'm gonna eat on my lunch break 4 minutes after getting to work. I just did this today. Yeah, I've got like the one jersey for where I mascot, and that's about it. I feel like if I wear it, maybe my back will get fixed. But who knows? I'm just like, they don't do history anymore. It makes me sad. I meet someone. We talk. I explain that Lego people live in houses made of their own flesh. They leave. The circle of life. It moves us forward. All right. Let's see. 8-year-old me. I hope something good happens. Me now. I hope whatever bad happens is at least funny. I agree. It's real life right there. What do you do for a living? I do my best. I do my best. Me getting stuck on a level in a video game after 50 attempts. My older brother beating the level in one try. I was the older brother, so sorry, bro. See? Bro. My girlfriend kept making fun of me during our walk because I wouldn't let go of this icicle I found. I have a feeling I have a feeling you all will understand. I would absolutely hold on to this icicle. Anybody else? I may have picked them because every time that I scrolled, for the most part, I was like, that's that person, that's that person, that's that person. They'll feel seen and attacked. My boy put hand sanitizer on his desk and tried to cook Spam in his dorm. You know what? Not wrong. I love how it's like, I'm high AF. When you decide to have a little lay down for a few minutes, but you wake up at 4 a.m. fully clothed with the lights on. And if you're that person, one of us, one of us, one of us. Amazing, but will end soon. Don't lie. You've gnawed on an ice cream stick. You know what? Don't answer that. Plants outside? Concrete? Cozy. Plants at home? Is this tap water? I'm allergic. Topics middle school boys can't handle. Or you all. 1. Bangkok. 2. Blue-footed boobies. 3. Uranus. Or 4. Lake Titicaca. Insurance companies, when you finally ask them to do their job after paying them thousands of dollars over the years. This is quite literally it's so ridiculous. You pay to be protected and to be taken care of, and then when something goes wrong, you pay. Somebody explain. I want to go to Lake Titicaca too. And then I want to buy a shirt that says I went to Lake Titicaca and all I got was this shitty shirt. What's up, Lady in Gray? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Me looking at the supermarket camera after eating a grape. I didn't do anything. Me searching something on the internet. Random dude on a forum who had the same question 10 years ago. That happened today. Zoinks! The perfect windshield wiper doesn't exist. Yeah, it does. Sure does. It sure does. Oh my. Thanks for putting up with me. That's not all of them, but you know, we gotta move on. We gotta move on, everybody. We gotta move on. So here's what I want to do. I want to create a story. I want to create a story. Now we're doing Chandler Halderson, so I think maybe we should probably create a story about Chandler Halderson. Maybe it's a letter. So I am going to who's he writing the letter to? Somebody, who is he writing the letter to? In the words of Cat Williams, don't worry, Elon Musk. Okay. All right, what what job is he doing? You stop it. Thank you. Oh, to his girlfriend. We could do Elon Musk and his girlfriend, or Elon Musk, comma his girlfriend. SpaceX mopping the bathroom. Hey, it's Jasper, the friendly goat, the friendliest goat you know. Do 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 do. Let's see. I know, isn't this exciting for everybody? Shower drain cleaner. All right, so let's see here. All right, what else? Somebody give me some actions. Give me some actions. Give me some maybe some people, places, and things. Because now I've got the letter. Now I'm just gonna have it include other things into the letter. Cried. ChatGPT is gonna be like, "What are you doing?" All right. We're letting it. We're letting it breathe. We're letting it put itself together. All right, here we go. Let's see here. You guys, you remember story time, right? We all remember story time. Let's come up with some music. All right, give me a mood or a genre of music. Oh, that's way... That's a lot, slow jazz. Perfect. Nicely done. Good choice. We are going to... All right. Is everybody ready? Hopefully you are. I don't even know if I am, but we're going to find out. We're going to find out. We'll find out. All right. Dear Mr. Musk, I hope this letter finds you while you're taking a break from launching rockets, digging tunnels, or brainstorming your next out-of-this-world idea. My name is Chandler Halderson, and I'm currently residing at a lovely state-sponsored resort with an unbeatable long-term lease. I wanted to share an exciting job opportunity I invented, and who better to share it with than you? Picture this: an $80,000 a year gig as a bathroom attendant. Yes, you read that right. Mop the bathroom, clean the shower drains, make sure the soap dispensers are always full, and keep the toilet paper stocked. I know, sounds too good to be true. But in a moment of sheer brilliance, or sheer desperation, I concocted this fantasy job to impress my parents. It was my way of saying, "Look, I can contribute to society. No!" Even if it was just in the world of my imagination. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. My parents are no longer with us. And yes, I'm responsible. I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say it involved a series of really bad decisions and a can of beans I regret opening. Think of it as the ultimate oops, I did it again moment. I cried a lot afterward, which wasn't exactly helpful, but hey, everyone needs a good cry sometimes. Life in here has its moments. For instance, I recently tried to convince the guards to let me have a pet goat. I even had a name picked out, Jasper, the friendly goat. But apparently the prison administration has some unreasonable rules about livestock. Bacon, my cellmate, won't let me have a goat either, citing, quote, practical reasons, like space and hygiene. So, I've had to settle for less lively company, like my pole dancing escapades and running from another inmate who thought it was funny to yeet my shower drain cleaner across the communal bathroom. But let's get back to the point. I believe in second chances and fresh starts. You're a guy who appreciates thinking outside the box, or in my case, outside of the cell. I may have aimed for an imaginary high-paying janitorial position, but I genuinely want to turn my life around. And what better place to start anew than under the wing of the most innovative mind of our time. I'm willing to start at any position, even if it means cleaning rocket ship bathrooms, testing self-cleaning toilets, or entertaining your team with tales of my commissary adventures and the time I went streaking after losing a bet. I'm ready to show that I can be hardworking, dedicated, and perhaps even a little entertaining with my unique perspective on life. Thanks for reading this. If you ever need someone with an unconventional background to add a little humor and hard work to your team, I'm your guy. Plus, I've got plenty of time to dedicate to any projects you throw my way. Just like when I frolicked through the yard pretending it was the Outback Steakhouse. Yours sincerely, Chandler Halderson. Alright, it's time to get into court, and I hope you enjoyed that insanity. I wasn't able to read what you were saying just yet. Let's see. Oh, thank you. That is probably a true story. ChatGPT knows me way too well. No, I've never streaked. I know it's hard to believe. Before I go in public, I usually put like a bunch of stuff on, including a mascot costume. Cool. I did a pretty, quick version on the Hey Ho show on Friday. But this is the first time that I've come back with an actual criminal's letter. So maybe we'll do that every night court. It'll be fun. I've got like 8 wigs down here. I had to go into the attic. And remember where I placed that stuff, because that stuff went into the attic. So now it's back, and there's like, 7 of them or something. No idea. Anyways, if you remember, we were on day 6 of Chandler Halderson's trial. We were talking to the arson specialist about, wow, let me get it here. Hey, look, there it is. William Boswell, criminal investigation, arson, and he was talking about the fire and basically, what he saw, what he observed. So we're going to hop back into that. I'm going to try and keep track of the audio in terms of making sure it's loud enough. Actually, it probably isn't currently, so let me fix that. No, come on now. Don't be like that.
All right. And what was that addressed to? It was listed as current resident 459.
All right, almost there. All right, we'll give that a shot, and then we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. So,
And I feel like that needs to be celebrated.
So here we go.
5 Oak Spring Circle, DeForest, Wisconsin, 53532-1743. And what newspaper was it? This was the Badgerland Values Dane Zone newspaper. And that's one of those things they just...
Badgerland Values Dane Zone. Badgerland Values Dane Zone. If you abbreviate that, it's BVDs. That's all I'm saying. They knew what they were doing.
Send to your house. You don't really want them, but they send them to you anyway? That's correct. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. 317, is that an overhead view? Yes, it is. There's a white area in the middle of that burnt log. Did that at all catch your attention?
Yes, it did.
Why?
When for orientation purposes, I guess for the jury, when you're looking at this photograph, the top left-hand portion of the photograph with the darker tines, as you're facing the fireplace, that would be on your right-hand side. So the back of that fireplace grate is at the bottom of the screen for orientation purposes. But in looking at the burned piece of wood in the center and the white item that is present there at about the 6 o'clock position, before we moved this out of the fireplace, we took a look at it with some better lighting, and based on my training experience, that appeared to be bone. Okay. Bone to bone.
Like
And
he
was
had
that
just
back
cut
there,
it to fill it?
you
Yeah,
did not place
it
that
does.
there, I guess.
That is correct. I did not place that there.
And we'll go to the next slide, which I believe is a close-up 318, but that is a photograph prior to anything being disturbed in that area.
That's correct.
Okay. We'll go to 319, which is next. That's what the fireplace looks like without the grate,
That is correct.
and we're able to see a more clear view of the ash trap there.
Yes.
I don't know where everyone's at with fireplaces in their house. A lot of people have the gas one. Could you just explain what that chain does in relation to a fire?
Certainly. So the chain it controls a damper that is on top of the chimney. If you were to go on top of the roof of the residence to where the chimney is, there is a metal plate that is able to be moved up and down by pulling on this chain, either down or releasing it up, to assist in airflow throughout the chimney, as is the circular item that you see in the back. That is for combustion air or fresh air to come into the back of the fire at the base of the fire from the exterior, and the heat rises and goes out and leaves the structure. So if that chain were pulled completely down, it would close the damper at the top of the fireplace.
Understood. All right, we'll go to the next exhibit, 320, and just a closer view of maybe that ash trap. We'll go to the next one, 321. Again, that became relevant in your investigation, did it not?
That's correct.
That's perhaps why there's quite a few photos. And we'll go through a few of these somewhat quickly, but we'll go to the next one. There we're looking at just another view of that top view of the fire.
That's correct.
It goes without saying, but fair to say that that fire appears to have some fresh logs put on top of it,
Yes,
and one burnt piece in the middle.
that's correct.
All right, we'll go to the next one.
Counsel, we should note for the record what the exhibit numbers are.
Sure. That was 322. Now we're at 323.
Judge said,
What are you doing here and taking having some of these photographs taken? Do you know the purpose?
Yes, I believe when we took this it was twofold. One, to continue to show the pieces or the items that were on the grate that were.
You can't tell me that Chandler knows how to start a fire. I'm pretty sure I'm better at that than he would be. And that is flippin' saying something.
Were unburned, to include the two logs on both the left and the right side, as well as the newspaper, and in the bottom center, running parallel with the fireplace grate, was another piece of wood that ultimately was squared off on one end and kind of rounded over on the end closest to the viewer.
All right. We'll go to the next one, which is 324. We're going to have a couple close-up photographs of this suspected bone, correct?
Yes,
And this was the bone that you observed on the top of the fireplace?
that's correct. Yes.
All right. We'll go to the next one, 325. Just some different lighting.
That
Yes.
is most
Go to the next one,
assuredly a bone.
326. And at some point it was placed on a kind of a measuring tool from law enforcement.
Yes,
And the same with 327.
correct.
At points during your investigation, did it appear necessary to you to call out a forensic anthropologist who specialized in bone?
Absolutely.
And was one brought to the scene, in fact,
Yes?
a doctor?
Yes.
And who was that doctor?
Dr. Christina Figueroa Soto.
Because he ain't
the
very
County
bright.
Medical Examiner's office.
But I was
We'll go to the next one,
I wasn't an
328.
Eagle Scout, but I was a Boy
What is
Scout,
this?
and
Those are additional, what appeared to be bone fragments that were around the area where the larger piece was that you saw in the prior exhibit.
which is why it's so much fun to make fun of him.
Just another one of those fragments.
That's correct.
And the next couple, we'll go to 330. There was just some zoomed-in images of that grate where some of these things were being found, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Same with 331,
Yes.
332,
Yes.
and 333. 333, though, brings us to a different spot in the Halderson home, does it not?
That's correct.
And in fact, we'll go to 334. We have to go to the basement, right?
Yes, the prior photo was the ash dump removed so we could see what was underneath it and what was beneath it.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
I'm sorry, you're approaching over what? Are you approaching over the ash dump? This is what you choose to come upon? Flippin' ridiculous.
High-level home. The basement level is below grade. The area where the fireplace was located that you saw in the prior photos was at grade level. There was a kitchen, living room, dining room
Pretty sure the
space,
general
and
would have a heart
bedroom
attack.
space. So we're in this photograph, we're at the lowest level of the home, looking at what would have been the back side of the fireplace. And I had mentioned on one of the prior exhibits, the combustion intake, the circular item in the back of the fireplace. The metallic pipe that you see here is what goes directly to the back side of that combustion air intake for the fireplace.
Was there an access in the Halderson home to the container containing the ashes from the ash trap?
Yes, there was.
And was it easily accessible?
No, it was not.
What do you mean by that?
What you see here is after some of the items had already been moved, but so in the basement, the blue table that you see here was covered in other items. I believe I referred to it in my report. There were pieces and parts of what appeared to be an old billiard table that had been stacked up upon the top surface and leaning up against the front of this blue workbench, if you will. The workbench and all the items associated with the billiard table had to be removed, and we then removed the wood paneling that you see on the wall to get to where the ash trap is. And if you look at the bottom right-hand portion of the photo, underneath the table, you'll see a gray colored item there. Immediately to the left of that, that debris that you see on the floor is debris that has fallen out of the door that covered up the ash trap access to the fireplace.
So what did you do to gain access to this area of the house?
All the items were removed from the workbench. The workbench was removed, and we removed the paneling from the wall. Saw that we had a very, very small opening for access to the ash trap. And knowing that we had to get in here to see what was beneath that fireplace, my coworker, William Fulton from Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms had contacted a colleague of his who specializes in urban search and rescue, shoring up buildings, breaching walls, and things like that to find out what was going to be the safest way to access this for our safety and to prevent any collapse inside the residence.
Okay. And we'll go to the next slide. So what did you do here?
So for reference, the smallest opening that you see there on the right-hand side where the wall is painted yellow, that was where the ash trap door had been. And it was a very, very small, approximately 8x8 opening that we needed. That's all we had initially to try to get inside of where this was. So the larger openings that you see to the left and the right were openings made in the wall by Special Agent Fulton based on the recommendation from his urban search and rescue coworker.
Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Just a closer up, or what is that?
That is the opening to the left-hand side that we created in the wall with the sledgehammer to be able to access the interior portion that was beneath the fireplace.
And we'll go to the next slide. Closer up, what is that?
That is a similar opening, but now on the right-hand side of the fireplace.
Okay. At that point, after cutting these holes, were you able to access the ash area?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll go to the next slide. What is that?
That is a top-down view from the vantage point of the level just above the basement, looking down through the ash trap into the pit that contained the ashes underneath the fireplace.
All right. And we'll go to the next slide. What is that?
That is a similar view of that area and the ash that was inside the ash pit, if you will, beneath the fireplace.
And the next slide, similar?
Similar, yes, with debris removed.
All right, and the next slide. What are we looking at there?
Same area, a different capture of the area after additional debris was removed from inside.
Okay, we're going to stop looking at photographs for a second. You mentioned debris removed, so I guess I assume you're removing debris and taking photos along the way?
That's correct.
Tell me about that process.
So I'll talk about the photos first. With the assistance of Dane County Deputy Scott Coons, we attached cameras to the underside of the fireplace. The support floor for the fireplace had iron or steel bars running through it for support. We used magnetic cameras to hold, or magnets to hold the cameras up so that we could view the interior of this to do two things: to A, take photographs along the way, and B, to push those images to his iPad that he had, so that in areas, I mean, these holes are about 16 by 16 inches, and I'm a little barrel-chested, and getting inside was a little difficult, so sometimes seeing, we had to rely on what he was transmitting to his iPad so that we could see where we were to gather items. So we had lights that he set up inside, as well as his cameras, that assisted us in documenting the process as we removed debris from the upper levels down to the level that you see here.
And just in general, how did you remove the debris?
So we worked in two different times from each side, but not usually at the same time. We had a fan that was set up on top of the chimney. We removed the damper from the top of the chimney outside and had a fan to draw out dust, to keep dust from getting inside the residence. And we used large grain scoops, plastic handled grain scoops, and removed the items that removed the piles of debris in there to 5-gallon pails, and had those then removed to the exterior of the structure for further examination by Dr. Figueroa Soto and others, as well as the Dane County Bomb Squad with their x-ray machine.
And how long did this whole process take to take out all this ash?
We worked that day for probably 6 hours or so. From the time we got started, we had breached the wall prior to that, and we had several different crews there, sifting crews working outside, as well as the crime lab and the Dane County Bomb Squad. And it was the better portion of the day. We actually, 3 or 4 of us actually ended up having to leave at the end of the day to go to a different fire someplace else, but we finished this up before we took off that day.
Sure. And were you part of the sifting operation after the debris was removed?
A portion of it, yes.
And were things of note being found?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So the sifting operation consisted of a couple of different things. Again, when materials we brought out before they went to the sifting stations, and we probably had 4 to 6 sifting stations, maybe more. Before those items were sifted, they were x-rayed by the bomb squad, bomb techs, to determine if there were any items in a particular bucket that might be of interest and that somebody should be looking for. Whether it was metallic items, whether they believed it was something that showed up that maybe looked different that you might not see right away with the naked eye. And then those items were sifted. As the items were sifted, if there were questions about what it might be, whether it was bone or whether it was maybe non-organic remains, Dr. Figueroa Soto was there to answer those questions for the sifting crews. And then as we went through 1/2-inch and 1/4-inch screens, the items that were sifted out onto tarps in case we needed to go back through those at a later date, and those items were maintained.
Sure. Did you yourself see any items that appeared to be bone to you?
Yes, I did.
And were those items also examined by Dr. Figueroa Soto from the crime lab, or from the medical examiner's office?
Yes. Yes, they were.
Those items that you observed that appeared to be bone, as well as the items that you observed in the fireplace that you've already said you believe to be bone, were those consistent with what you've observed in your career and your training and experience as bone or human bone that's subjected to heat or fire?
I could say that they were consistent with bone. I would not be able to make a determination while there if it was human bone or non-human bone.
Do you rely on another expert to make that determination?
I do indeed.
And who is that expert?
That would be a forensic anthropologist, and in this case, Dr. Figueroa Soto.
And she was in fact on scene, was she not?
She was.
Okay. 1 second.
You bet.
1 second. I'm not ready just yet.
This witness be excused
He may be excused, yes.
and released, or you'll let him know?
We'll let him know.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good remainder of your day.
You do the same. Thank you.
Let me inquire, counsel, of the timing here, if you can.
Sure.
Come on up.
And we're back to a break. And we're going to take a break. Da-da-da-da-da. Are they coming back? Is that the end? Really?
Here, where you were free. We need some time ourselves. I do as well. So we'll come back at 12:45. And I remind you again, while
Oh, no,
we're
sorry,
away
this is-
from this room, don't discuss
That
the
was
case with anyone or overhear any
day
discussions.
one.
Don't seek out information or become exposed to any information.
Ah, here's part
This
2.
case is exhibit number 14.
Get your butt back over here. Of course, they didn't start right on time.
Camera 23. Now we're going to look at camera 23. What area of your store is camera 23?
It is the aisle that carries the ATMs.
Also looks to be like the cooler air, kind of
Cooler ice, and it's the path to the beer cave, yes.
Okay.
And the time on this image?
I think we're getting it before we
Okay.
start playing.
I can't read this, the small print, so I don't know if
Absolutely.
it's there or not.
8:23 p.m.
Thank you.
Oh, look. There's no neck brace. How amazing. Good for him.
And we're stopping it at 8:23 and 30 seconds. And then finally, I believe we are going to play camera 10. Starting it at 8:24 and 14 seconds.
We got a heavy breather. We got a heavy breather.
And stopping it at, well, it just flipped, but I believe we stopped it at 8:25. Oh, okay. And we're done with that HDMI, Judge. And that was all video footage from your store in Windsor.
Correct.
I'm now going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 406. Could you please identify what Exhibit 406 is?
It's a receipt from my store.
Okay. I would this time move Exhibit 406 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Thank you.
And that was for a purchase of 2 10-pound bags of ice.
Correct.
And the time of that purchase is 8:24 p.m.
Correct.
No further questions for this one.
Cross-examination?
Ah,
None, thank you.
Thank you. May this witness be excused and released.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
The state at this time will call Vincent D'Agostini.
Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good afternoon. If you're able to safely and responsibly testify without your mask, that would be our preference if you could.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Please state and spell out your name for everyone typing notes here.
It's Vincent D'Agostini, VINCENT, D''A''Gostini.
And how are you employed, sir?
How am I employed?
Yeah.
Currently, I actually just accepted a job at Target, but I was previously employed with Fleet Farm.
In what role?
Loss prevention team lead.
Sure. And was that back in July of 2021?
Yes, it was.
Tell me about what your job was in general back in July of 2021 at Fleet Farm.
Basically, my job is to deter theft and to operate the CCTV surveillance system. And then also I played a role in inventory procedures as well.
In part of that role, did you sometimes have the opportunity to work with the police and as they were investigating things?
Yes, very frequently.
Could you describe, just in case everyone doesn't know, where is the Fleet Farm that we're talking about?
It's 4630 Dalmore Road in DeForest. It's right on the corner of I-19 and Highway 90.
And at some point, were you asked to provide police some surveillance footage from inside the Fleet Farm and maybe even a little bit outside, but mostly inside on July 2nd, in kind of early in the morning, around 7:20 or so?
Yes, it was.
And did you provide the police a copy of that video ultimately?
I did.
All right, and I'll note for counsel it's marked as 407, and I'd move 407 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
All right, and we'll go ahead and publish that.
And it should appear on the computer monitor in front of you once it is played.
Go ahead. So we're playing clip 42. What are we looking at there, by the way?
This is our front entrance to the store.
All right. We'll go to the next clip. We're going to play clip 5-1. What are we looking at in clip 5-1?
This is our last aisle in the hardware department. And it's right next to the farm department where we keep tarps and some outdoor gear.
Okay. And I'll just draw the jury's attention to maybe that center row, someone about to cross or walk into that aisle. Whereabouts is that person at the top of the screen in the center?
That aisle is where the tarps are located.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Welcome to the party, pal.
All right, and we'll go to the next clip. And we'll play clip 56. What are we looking at there?
This is again up at the front entrance, and that would be lane 1 is the closest checkout lane there.
And do you recognize that item that the person in that video is purchasing?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
It's a black and silver tarp.
He looks all right. Doesn't look like he's hurting. I will say this, the graphic design of the thank you, see you next time is bothering the hell out of me. Woof.
All right, I'm going to show you a couple photographs, sir.
No.
I'll start, I guess, with a question. In addition to this video, did the police ask you to maybe look into that actual purchase itself?
Yes.
And were you able to do that in your role?
Yes, I was.
What's exhibit number 408? What does that look like to you?
This is a transaction snapshot for that transaction, or essentially a receipt for it.
And are you able to tell what the subject in that transaction purchased?
Yes, it is. It's a 6x8 silver black heavy duty poly tarp.
And is there a date and time that this was all done at?
Yes, July 2nd, 2021 at 7:21 a.m.
All right, I'll move 408 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
What is 409? Do you recognize that at all?
Yes, this is kind of a close-up of the card information that was used to purchase that tarp.
Okay. And does it have the same date and time stamp for the silver black heavy duty poly tarp?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I'll move 409 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
And you've mentioned that tarp. Are 410 and 411, are those photographs of maybe the packaging of the tarp and maybe what would be inside?
Yes.
All right, I'll move 410 and 411.
No objection.
They are received.
All right, I'll ask to publish these on the Elmo. Sir, what's going to happen is that screen's going to come on in 1 second. We're going to show you the same pictures again. So we're looking at 408. And if we zoom in, there at the top.
Oh, no. No, sir. Nope. We're not doing receipts. This is not happening. I do not want to...
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
I don't want gas math. I don't want receipt math. I never want to see another receipt again, ever. And if you're questioning why, see Jody Arias.
There's the date that you were referencing, correct? The July 2nd at 7:21 a.m.?
Correct.
And a bit farther down, there's the item description of a 6x8 silver black heavy-duty polytarp, quantity 1, purchased for $6.99.
Yes.
That's super duper cheap. I still don't like the graphic design, but
Excellent. That's
That's
the same
true.
information on Exhibit
That's true.
409.
Yes, it is.
I'm covering
even
up
if they're held for a
the
while
remainder of the
until they're
exhibit
needed,
that has
yes.
some information on it that we don't need to share. And then zooming out, just briefly, you testified that 410, that's the packaging of that tarp that was purchased,
Yes, it is.
and 411, the tarp.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think it was Fleet Farm. That's where this guy works at, so I'm assuming he's asking him questions about Fleet Farm.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Now, sir, as part of your investigation into this, you were asked to see if that card had been used for any previous transactions, correct?
Correct.
And you were only able to locate one previous transaction.
I am jealous of this
correct?
man's hair.
That's correct.
And that was from back in September of 2020, correct?
Correct.
You mean on Fleek Week?
That's all, thank you.
That's what the kids
Any
say.
redirect. And just to note, for the record, the video clips were played in their entirety.
They were all played in there.
Yeah, I'd say Wisconsin's version of Ollie's.
Are excused from your subpoena, and I suspect released.
You are.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
State will now call Dr. Breslauer to the stand.
Doctor Who? That's cute. But also gendered.
Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
He is giving Clark Kent. You are correct.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm going to ask if you would feel comfortable and believe you could safely and responsibly
I'm jealous of her
testify
hair,
without
too.
a mask. That would be the preference if you're able to do that.
I would prefer to keep my mask on.
Very good. Then make sure, as it is now, that the microphone is very close to you. I understand.
Bow ties are cool.
The title used in calling you that you
That's
work
what
in
Matt
healthcare,
Smith's told me.
Or it has some relation to that industry. So as long as the jury can hear you, that'll be fine. Thank
That's
you.
correct, Your Honor.
Go right ahead.
Good afternoon. If you could please state both your first and last name and spell both for the record, please.
My first name is Corey, C-O-R-I. My last name is Breslauer, B-R-E-S-L-A-U-E-R.
What do you do for a living?
I'm the Deputy Medical Examiner at the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office.
And that means you're an MD?
That is correct.
And you obviously went through some substantial training in order to become a Deputy Medical Examiner.
That is correct.
I'm going to approach you now with Exhibit 363. Showing you what has been marked as Exhibit 363. Is this your curriculum vitae?
This is.
Okay. At this point, I would move Exhibit 363 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
So, Doctor, where did you go to medical school?
I went to medical school at the University of Arizona College of Medicine in Phoenix, Arizona.
And then did you do a residency?
I did a residency in anatomic and clinical pathology at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
And what is pathology?
Pathology is a study of medicine that basically covers the effects of injury and disease on the body.
And are you board certified in any area?
I am board certified in anatomic pathology and in forensic pathology.
Now, what does it mean to be board certified?
Board certification means that I underwent an approved training program in the field that I'm certified in, and then I took a qualifying exam following that training and passed that exam.
And these are pretty extensive, several day long exams.
That is correct.
And have you worked as a medical examiner at any location outside of the Dane County office?
I worked as a local medical examiner at the North Carolina office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Raleigh, North Carolina.
And many careers like teachers, lawyers, have to go through continuing education. Is that something that doctors also have to go through?
Yes, it is.
And so you've attended trainings throughout your career as well?
Yes, the American Board of Pathology requires that I maintain my certification.
And you got involved in this investigation on July 8th of 2021, is that correct?
I believe so. I don't have my report in front of me.
Okay, well, fair enough. That's exactly what I was getting to.
Yeah.
And you did write an official report in this case, is that fair?
I did.
And there was a typo in your first report, so you wrote, there's an amended report that basically eliminates one word.
The amended report reflects a correction of one typographical error.
Okay. I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 364. Is this your amended report in this case?
This is my amended report with the triage notes from our office attached to the front.
All right, I removed Exhibit 364 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
And also in preparation for testifying, as a team, we put together a photo, which I'm going to present in booklet form because of the sensitive nature of the photos. But is that true?
Yes.
And that is marked as Exhibit 366. And I just ask that you page through Exhibit 366 and make sure that that is the presentation that was put together.
This is the presentation.
And does that presentation, for the most part, it is just photos of the autopsy that you performed in this case?
That is correct.
Okay. At this time, I would move Exhibit 366 into evidence, and I also have 365, which is a digital copy, just for the record.
No objection.
Or both are accepted into evidence.
And doctor, throughout the questioning, obviously I'm going to have you looking at Exhibit 366, but if you also need to look at your report 364, that is fine. Just maybe note on the record when you were doing so and what pages.
Yes.
Just so we have a complete record here.
As the booklets are being distributed to the jury, I'll remind you that you should only turn pages when the witness is discussing the next page within the pamphlet. Obviously, you can turn back at any point. And again, we will advise you that observing these images is an important role as a juror, but studying these images is up to you personally as to the necessity that you feel to do so during the course of the testimony. Go ahead.
And doctor, obviously you've worked as a medical examiner in various roles for several years, but is it fair to say you've performed hundreds of autopsies?
7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Obviously you don't remember them all individually, thus you write reports.
That's correct.
Okay. So anytime you need to refer to your report, that is just fine. So how did you become involved in this case? Did you actually go to the scene on Irwin Road where the torso was found?
I did go to the scene where the torso was found. The cases are brought to the office's attention by contacting our office. They first get triaged through our investigators who gather initial information, after which we are made aware of the scene, the suspicious nature, whether or not our presence is requested. I was notified that there was a scene, potentially suspicious scene, that my presence was requested at, and I then arrived at the scene with the investigator.
And why do medical examiners go to scenes?
Medical examiners goes to scenes because there is information that we can gather, circumstantial information based off of the position of the body, the environment that the body is found, and because my specialty is assessing the circumstances and the injuries that are found on the body, I'm able to assimilate all of that information.
So what did you do when you went to the Irwin Road address? What did you just look around, take pictures, something else?
Once the scene was assessed to be safe for us to enter, we approached where the body was located. We looked at the environment that the body was in, and then photographs were taken at my direction by the investigator.
Then what did you do next?
So the body was underneath a considerable amount of brush and debris, and the layers of that brush and debris were removed, again, at my direction, and we then assessed the body as it was in its position.
And in all fairness, the brush and debris was kind of slowly removed, so each little process could be photographed. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. At some point, was the torso removed and transferred back to your medical office?
It was under my direction.
Okay. And what does that mean, under your direction? Is there a certain procedure that you guys use?
There is. Once we look at the body as it is, we roll the body and look at all the sides. We photograph the body in multiple angles, And we then wrap the body in an evidence sheet. Usually, if the body is intact, we will bag the hands and the feet to protect evidence that may be there. In this case, there were no limbs for us to bag separately. We did wrap the body in a sheet, placed it into a clean body bag, and then we transported it back to our office.
That is so dark the more you think about it.
And back at your office, what, if any, sort of examination do you perform?
So back at the office, we have the resources, the lighting, and the tools available to perform a complete examination on the body, on the outside and the inside. We begin with an external exam where we look at the surfaces and the injuries and the markings of the body and document everything that we see with our eyes. Following that, and as well as collection of any evidence that we see. Following that, we then open the body and we examine the internal organs and any injuries that we see on the inside of the body and collect any specimens that we may need to evaluate later.
Do you x-ray the body?
We do.
And did that x-ray in this case help with identification?
It did.
And who was this torso? Who did you identify as it belonging to? Or as it being?
Right, so we
Yeah,
often
tread carefully with that
evaluate
question,
bodies that
ma'am.
come in without an identity, and so often they will come with a presumed identity. In this case, we were told that the presumed identity of the body was Bart Halderson. We received imaging x-rays of Bart Halderson that were taken while he was alive, and we then compared those to the x-rays that we took of the body that we had in our office, and I found multiple points of concordance that identified this body scientifically as Bart Halderson.
And did you folks also collect DNA from the torso?
We did.
I am going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 372. And that's called a DNA spot card, is that correct?
That is correct.
And this appears to be the evidence envelope for Bart B. Halderson's DNA spot card.
That is correct.
And did you collect that DNA, or did somebody from the sheriff's office?
This would have been either myself or my team with my autopsy tech.
Okay. I'd move Exhibit 372 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
Okay. Doctor, why don't we move on to page 2?
Folks, I want to tell you two things. If you look at the cover page, you'll see a small numeral in the bottom right-hand corner. All of the pages have those, and they're numbered. So if you were to lose your place, you could find out the next page by searching out those numbers in that corner. Unlike the presentations last week, this one doesn't work its way slowly into the process. I just wanted to alert you to that. Go ahead, Attorney Raymond.
That's correct. Doctor, could you please describe page 2 to the jury?
At least somebody does.
Page 2 is one part of a 3-part overall photograph of the torso, showing the lower half or inferior part.
And there's 2 circles on the right-hand side of this slide or this photo. What are those circles highlighting?
The circles on the right are highlighting the severed femurs of the body. Basically, the body was dismembered with the lower limbs removed, and the circles show the terminal ends of the femur bones.
And then there's a circle on the left side. What is the circle on the left side of page 2 highlighting?
The circle on the left side of page 2 shows a gunshot wound.
Moving on to page 3. Could you please describe page 3 for the jury?
Page 3 is part 2 of a 3-panel overall, showing the middle part of the body.
Okay. And a circle there again highlighting a gunshot wound?
That is correct. It is the same wound that is highlighted in the previous photograph.
And do you know it yet in this part of your autopsy if that's an entrance wound or an exit wound?
Yes, this is an exit wound.
An exit wound.
Yes.
All right. So, and we'll get more into that. Does that mean, though, that, for lack of a better term, Mr. Halderson was shot in the back?
That is correct.
Moving on to page 4. What does page 4 show?
Page 4 is part 3 of a 3-panel overall showing the front half of the torso.
Okay, and again, there's 3 circles on the left side of that slide. Would you explain what those 3 circles are highlighting?
Yes, so the circles on the top and the bottom highlight the severed upper extremities and the terminal ends of the humeral bones. The circle on the left in the middle, in between those two, shows the neck, or the base of the neck, where the head has been severed.
All right. Let's turn to slide 5. How would you describe slide 5 for the jury?
Slide 5 shows the posterior or back side of the torso. For orientation, the head, or where the head would be on the left side, and the feet would be on the right side.
Okay. How would you describe what the red circle is highlighting on the rightmost side?
The right circle is circling what I have labeled as gunshot wound number 1. It is an entrance gunshot wound.
Okay. And how would you describe the circle on the more left side?
The left side is also a gunshot entrance wound, which I describe as gunshot wound number 2.
And doctor, how can you tell if a wound is an entrance wound or an exit wound?
There are characteristics which support wounds being either entrance wounds or exit wounds. In place, an entrance wound typically has a round shape and an abrasion collar where the bullet abrades the skin as it enters the body. We can also find, depending on the range of fire, if the gun was fired at a close range to the body, we can sometimes find evidence of burned and unburned gunpowder particles, soot, and things like this.
Okay. Let's move on to slide 6. What is slide 6 showing?
Slide 6 is a closer view of the left-sided or superior or closer to the head gunshot entrance wound from the previous slide.
Okay. And were you able to, based on the characteristics, look at the surrounding area under a microscope?
That is correct.
And when you look at a wound or an entrance wound or whatever sort of wound under a microscope, what are you looking for?
So sometimes we can see soot with our eyes without any assistance because there's a black residue. However, in this case, there was decompositional artifact that obscured and discolored the areas. So what I did was I sampled 4 areas from each wound and looked at it under the microscope. And what that allowed me to see was microscopic evidence of soot that I could not see without the assistance of a microscope.
And based on, are you able to make any determinations based on amount of soot or whether soot is present or not?
I can comment on whether it was present or not in the pieces of tissue that I submitted. So I see a 2-dimensional plane of cells under the microscope, and in those pieces that I sampled, if it is present, then I can see that it's there. It appears as black granular debris deposited within the dermis, which is the second layer underneath the very surface of the skin. And if I don't see it, it does not necessarily mean it is not present at all. It only means that it was not present in the tissue that I sampled.
And what is the relationship between how far away a gun is from a person's skin and soot?
Typically, you're expecting a contact range gunshot if soot is seen.
All right, so if there's soot present,
within inches.
That means within, I'm sorry.
Inches.
Inches, okay. And if soot is not present, what, if anything, does that tell you about the gun range in relationship to the victim's skin?
Yes, so that it can say a couple of things. It can say, if there is no soot, it can say that the range of fire was farther away and that there was too much distance for soot to make it to the body. It can also say that something could have been in the way that could have obstructed soot from making it to the body. So there could have been layers of clothing or a wall or a door or something obstructing soot making it to the body.
And when you looked at the wound that is pictured in slide 6, what, if any, evidence did you find of soot?
I did not find microscopic evidence of soot in this injury.
So what range do you put for this wound?
For this, I have indeterminate range because I do not have characteristics that can tell me what the range is.
So basically that means it could be feet instead of inches. Is that a fair way to say it?
It is. It means I do not know the range.
Okay. I'm going to turn to slide 7. What is pictured on slide 7?
Slide 7 is a metal fragment that was found in the wound track representing a fragment of projectile.
Okay. And during this autopsy, projectile fragments were turned over to the Dane County Sheriff's Office, is right?
Yes, that is correct.
But then you came across one later during the process of examining the bones.
Yes, so due to the sensitive nature of this case, our office retained the body in our cooler. I then re-examined the body later on in order to fully understand the wound tracts. Upon that second exam is when I found the additional fragment.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 555. And when you found that additional fragment, did you turn it over to the Sheriff's Office as well?
I did.
Okay. And on Exhibit 555, does that appear to be the label for the metal fragment that you turned over to Tim Blank from the Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 555 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
Thank you. It is received.
Good grief.
All right.
Said Charlie Brown.
Turning now to slide 8. Could you please describe slide 8 for the jury?
Slide 8 represents, it's a similar photograph, but it highlights a different gunshot entrance wound.
Okay. The one that's more on the right or lower in the back.
That is correct. It is closer to the feet than the entrance wound that was previously discussed.
Okay. And flipping to slide 9.
Slide 9 is a close-up photograph of the entrance wound that was in the previous slide on slide 8.
And were you able to look microscopically for soot on this wound?
I did.
And this is wound number 1 in your report, I believe?
That is correct.
And were you able to determine what range or what distance the gun was from the skin based upon the microscopic findings?
There were granular particles within the dermis on microscopy of the tissue I submitted here that were consistent with soot. Therefore, I assessed that as a contact range gunshot entrance wound.
So there was soot on the skin?
Yes.
So contact range?
Correct.
And again, going from back to front?
Correct.
Slide 10.
Slide 10 shows the anterior or front surface of the body, and a gunshot exit wound is highlighted.
And is that the exit wound from shot 1 or shot 2?
That is the exit wound from gunshot wound number 1, the contact range gunshot wound.
All right. All right, and let's move to slide 11, please.
Slide 11 demonstrates a close-up of the slide 10, the exit gunshot wound from gunshot wound number 1.
And the shape there is just kind of showing that with exit wounds, you can't usually put them back perfectly together like you can an entrance wound.
That is correct. As we discussed, the characteristics of gunshot wounds that allow me to assess whether or not they are entrance or exit. Exit wounds tend to be irregular, and they tend to be able to reapproximate. And this is just showing that irregular margin of the exit wound on the anterior surface.
Slide number 12. What is slide number 12 highlighting?
Slide number 12 also shows an anterior version of the torso, and it is highlighting hemorrhage at the neck.
Okay. And there's like a ruler sticker there.
Yes.
What are you measuring there?
We use a label that has a scale on it that puts our unique identification number, so that every photograph that we take has that unique identification number, and that scale allows us to measure whatever is in the field that we are photographing.
And is this hemorrhage from the mutilation, or is this hemorrhage from bullet?
The hemorrhage
trajectory
is surrounding the gunshot wounds.
Okay. And slide 13, please.
Slide 13 shows the base of the neck around the area of the right shoulder, and it is a ragged defect that is circled in the center right above that scale, and it represents a possible entry or exit for a third gunshot wound.
So there are at least 2 gunshot wounds, 1 and 2, that we discussed, in a possible third here.
Correct. We discussed 2 gunshot wounds, and then this is a third.
And were you able to look microscopically at this third gunshot wound?
I'm going to refer to my report.
Sure.
So on page 8 of 10, I have the descriptions of my histologic slides, and I submitted skin tissue only from the entrances and the exit previously discussed. I did not submit skin from this.
And is that partly because of the jagged nature, and it seems like there's more disruption to the skin?
That is correct. Additionally, the bullet material that was found directly underneath it, it's going to be impossible to tell if that represents the entirety of the wound track or if there is tissue missing because of the proximity to the severed head.
All right. Thank you. Exhibit 14, could you tell us what that slide exhibits?
Slide 14 is a portion of our posterior soft tissue dissection showing hemorrhage surrounding where I recovered the bullet fragments from the neck.
And then slide 15.
Slide 15 is jacket fragments and lead core fragments that were recovered from the neck.
Sorry, what was the second thing you said after jacket fragments?
So there's more than one part of a bullet. So there's the lead core of a bullet, and then there's the jacket that covers the bullet, and both are represented here.
It was the word lead I missed. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Doctor, obviously the legs, the arms, and the head were removed from this torso. Is there any can you make any determination whether that disfigurement or dismemberment occurred before or after Mr. Halderson, Bart Halderson, died?
So one thing that helps us determine whether or not an injury occurred before or after death is the presence or absence of a vital reaction or hemorrhage. So we've been talking about me finding hemorrhage in areas of injury. In the areas where the gunshot entrances were, there was hemorrhage around it, indicating that the heart was beating when the individual was shot. Where I recovered bullet fragments, there was hemorrhage or vital reaction surrounding that area. However, in the areas surrounding the dismembered limbs, or the head, the upper extremities, and the lower extremities, there were injuries, but I did not appreciate this vital reaction. I did not appreciate hemorrhage in the same way that I appreciated around the other injuries.
So the mutilation occurred after death.
That is correct.
Doctor, did you determine a cause of death for Bart Halderson?
I did.
And what was that cause of death?
As written on page 2 of my report, I determined the cause of death was gunshot wounds of the torso.
And did you determine a manner of death?
I did.
And what was the manner of death for Bart Halderson?
As I'm reading from page 2 of my report, I assessed that the manner of death was homicide.
Counsel, I believe page 16 of the booklet hasn't been discussed. And if you don't want to publish that page, that's fine. But I don't think I heard any testimony about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. My pages were just sticking together. I apologize, everyone.
Why were they sticking together? Does any...
Phrasing?
Doctor, could you look at page 16?
Yes.
What does 16 show?
Page 16 is also a representation of the posterior or back side of the torso around the area of the hip or the right hip or the flank. This represents a small ligature furrow. When the body was found at the scene, there was a length of rope that was encircling the body, and this was the area corresponding to where the rope was likely rubbing against the body.
So that's a wound from the rope?
That's correct.
And do you know of the gunshot wounds? Do you know, were both of them fatal? Was just one of them fatal or something else?
I would say that they were all fatal.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
Let's just start there with the 3 gunshot wounds. There's no way for you to tell which happened first, second, or third, correct?
That is correct. So when I was talking about the vital reaction or the hemorrhage, I can say that something happened before or after someone died, but with rare exceptions, am I able to say the order that one happened over the other.
And in your report, you noted, I think you used the words, at least 3 gunshot wounds. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And why use the phrase at least?
So in this case, I have missing tissue. I have missing upper extremities, lower extremities, and a missing head. So in the portion of the remains that I received, there were 3 gunshot wounds, evidence of 3 gunshot wounds, but I cannot say whether or not that there are additional gunshot wounds that could be in tissue that is absent or that I don't have the ability to evaluate.
And because on the 3 you were able to evaluate, you did see evidence of this vital reaction, is it fair to say it's your opinion that the person was alive when these gunshot wounds happened?
Yes.
And if there were other gunshot wounds to other extremities that you weren't able to examine, you wouldn't be able to tell if those were the same, having vital reaction, or not having vital reaction, obviously.
If the remains are not available, I cannot tell.
Now, you did testify that the dismemberment happened post-mortem because there was no vital reaction, correct?
Correct.
Are you able to say how long after the person died that the dismemberment happened?
Not with any certainty or with very much accuracy. There are estimations I could make based off of the decomposition that I saw. I can say that my findings are consistent with the circumstances that were given to me, but that's about as far as I could comfortably say.
Now, on page 2 of the report, when you talk about manner of death, you'd already testified that it was ruled homicide, but then there's a bracket where you say shot by other, parentheses S, with unknown firearm. So other or others, there's nothing about your examination that can tell you how many people might have been involved in shooting this person, correct?
That is correct. Because there is more than one gunshot wound, and because I was not present, I cannot say whether or not those were inflicted by one or more firearms.
You can say it wasn't this person self-inflicting these wounds.
Yes.
And again, just so we're clear, unknown firearm, there's nothing about your examination that could tell you what firearm caused these shots, correct?
Correct. The characteristics of the injuries are not such that I can tell a caliber or a type of firearm.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May the doctor be excused.
They may.
I'll take your report. I think that's still there. Anything else that is with you? Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
And we should collect the booklets that were utilized with the witness. Let me inquire, Attorney Raymond, who's next in the witness list? Nature of the next testimony and the length of time. We've been here an hour, but it's also been an hour that was intense. So let's go ahead and take a break at this point for convenience, and we'll come back in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Judge,
resume
for the
with the next
convenience.
witness. Thank you.
All right, for the jury.
Witness, please.
I call Denise Jones from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab.
You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes.
Good afternoon. I've had a discussion with every witness about whether they are willing to or believe they can safely and responsibly testify without a mask, but I've not ordered anyone to do so. Is it your preference to remain masked at this time, or could you testify without?
I'd prefer to have it on.
Very good. Then if you can pull the microphone really close, because it does have a tendency to muffle.
I heard
make sure
everything,
that we can
Judge.
hear you and that the jury can hear you.
And no,
Thank
it
you.
doesn't.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Could you please state and spell your name for the court?
Denise Jones, DENISEJONES.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a senior forensic scientist in the DNA analysis unit at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Madison.
How long have you been employed by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
14 and a half years.
What are your duties and responsibilities there?
I examine evidence for the presence of biological stains, such as blood, semen, and saliva. I extract DNA from those stains and make comparisons to known individuals. I write reports on my findings, and I testify in court if necessary.
Could you tell us about your educational background?
I received my Bachelor's of Science in Biology from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point in 2001, and I received my Master's of Science in Bacteriology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2004.
Have you received any specialized training in the field of serology, DNA, statistics, things of that sort?
Yes, I received 9 months of training on DNA analysis prior to doing casework. I also received training on statistics and star mix for about 2 months prior to doing it to casework. I'm required to take 8 hours of continuing education every year.
Have you, prior to today and previously, have you testified as an expert in court?
Yes, this is my 48th time.
Can you tell us, we'll talk a little bit about the laboratory, the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory. Is that an accredited lab?
Yes, it is.
And what does that mean?
It means we meet accurate and reliable testing.
Sure. Do you and your lab undergo any sort of proficiency testing?
Yes, I am required to undergo 2 proficiency tests a year.
Okay. What do those consist of?
It's samples that we would see in casework and to see if we can accurately and reliably do DNA analysis.
What is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the DNA we inherit from our parents. We inherit 50% from our fathers and 50% from our mothers, and it codes for all structure and function in our body. And DNA is found in every cell in the body except for red blood cells. So it's found in skin cells, white blood cells, and sperm cells.
How is DNA used in forensic science?
So most of our DNA is similar person to person, but there are specific areas that distinguish us from others, and it's those areas that we look at in DNA in forensics. Everyone will have differences except identical siblings. We look at 23 of these genetic markers and one that's specific for gender.
Sure. You said everyone will have different DNA other than identical siblings?
That's correct.
Can you tell us how DNA testing is conducted at the laboratory?
Heavy breather alert.
Can you be a little bit more specific?
Sure. What's the steps for conducting DNA testing when you're at the crime lab?
Gonna go ahead and say that those mics are
have,
picking up just fine.
Steps in the DNA analysis process. We have what's called extraction, which we are extracting the DNA from the sample or opening up the cell to get the DNA. We have quantitation, which allows us to determine how much DNA is in a sample, which will allow us to know whether or not we need to go on for further testing. And currently our kits, we can determine how much human DNA is present, how much male DNA is present, and whether or not we can detect degradation or inhibition in the sample.
Are these methods of testing and typing generally accepted by the scientific community?
Yes.
And do the majority of forensic scientists use these methods that you use?
Yes.
Are there multiple levels of review conducted to ensure that the correct procedures are followed in each case?
Yes, we have what's called technical review, which another qualified analyst also reviews the case file and report and looks to see that I followed our procedure manual correctly for interpretation, statistics, and notes.
I'm showing what's been marked in this case is exhibit number 380. This will just be brief, but can you tell me what that is?
That's a copy of my statement of qualifications.
And does that list your training and education in this field, making you qualified to comment on some of the matters you're going to comment on today?
Yes.
I'll move 380 into evidence.
No objection.
Thank you. It is received.
At times over the past year, since July of this year, have you been asked to become involved at various times into an investigation into a homicide that occurred over in Windsor involving some people with the names of Bart Halderson, Krista Halderson, Chandler Halderson?
Yes.
And have you produced numerous reports related to your analysis of separate items that have been submitted to you over that course of time?
Yes, I believe 4 reports.
Okay. Can I briefly ask you, who makes the decision to submit items to the crime lab?
That's up to the agency to submit, but then we also have submission guidelines in place on certain types of cases of how many items we'll allow upon submission. But as long as we have a meeting with the agency, we may allow more.
Sure. In general, in most cases, what is that limit of items that can be submitted?
10 for homicides.
And was that far exceeded in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And you were, in fact, the one who had to do with the testing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm showing you what's been marked in this case. I'm going to show you all 4 exhibits at once, then we'll go through them. Can you tell us what exhibit number 3
We'll see just how long it is.
And you might want to turn one page in.
And it won't be for months because
This is my report dated July
I'm not even
29.
watching it. I'm already burned out.
It has my signature on it.
And does
So-
that appear to be a true and accurate copy of your report?
Also, it's a little
Yes.
Right. I'll show you what's been marked
troublesome.
in this case as exhibit
And
number
I really don't need those
417.
kind of folks in the
Same
chat.
question, turn a couple of pages.
I
turn a
mean, I
page
love
in,
more
and
viewers,
what
but
that
I
is.
also don't.
This is my report dated September
We don't need
1st,
it.
2021.
And does that appear to be a true and accurate report, or a copy of the report on that?
I'll let things calm down
It
first.
appears to be.
Okay, I'll take that one from you. Showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 418, same questions.
This is a report dated October 6, 2021 that I authored.
And appear to be a true and accurate copy.
Yes.
And lastly, 560, same questions.
This appears to be a report that I authored dated November 8th, 2021.
True and accurate copy?
Yes.
At this time, Judge, I'll move 417, 18, 383, and 560 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
They are all received.
And I'll move to publish.
You may publish.
Ms. Jones, in preparation for testifying today, in order to make this a more visually understandable experience for everyone, you understand that your report has been maybe cut apart and put into a PowerPoint for everyone to see?
Yes.
Okay. And so we'll start with, you were asked to perform a report, and you did write a report on July 29th, 2021. Was this your first report in this case?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And as I'm talking about each report, in fact, I'll just give you a copy, and you can go ahead and just let us know if you're referencing that report, okay? And I see you brought some materials with you. If you need to reference anything, you can just let us know that you need to refresh your recollection, and we'll let you go ahead and do that. Just so there's a clear record, we'll just say that out loud, even though it might be a tad awkward or not normal. We'll go through this one somewhat slowly so everyone can understand maybe how these reports take form. But the first section of your report, we talk about items examined. So what did you examine here?
I examined a dried blood standard reportedly from Bart Halderson, an electric toothbrush head reportedly used by Crystal Halderson, and then some samples reportedly of human remains, K1 through K6, of differing body parts, and then a buccal swab standard reportedly from Mr. Halderson.
Okay. And I'm going to show you a couple of these items, just so we're talking about the same thing. I'm going to show you what's been received into evidence already in this case. It's been labeled with the exhibit sticker 194, and it's labeled electric toothbrush head. We're not going to open it or anything, but do you see anything on there that indicates that item has been to the lab?
It has our yellow barcode label with the case number and the item number.
And the case number in this case is what?
M21-1575.
And what is an item number?
It's just the item that we give each item that comes into the lab.
Okay. So while the police may have labeled it with a letter or a number, and maybe in court we put a sticker on it with a different number, you have your own system and you put your own letter to it?
Yes.
Okay. And what letter is that?
Item I.
All right. Same question with the item labeled Mr. Halderson DNA spot card. What item is that?
That is M21-1575, item B.
For the record, we're talking about exhibit 372 and then 361. What item is that?
It's M21-1575, item N.
Okay. So these items come into the lab. Can you tell me just a bit, and we won't do this for each item, but when the police bring you out an item, how are they processed in? I imagine there's not just a mailbox out front, that there's some process for this.
They usually meet with an evidence specialist that will take inventory of all the items and then give them a receipt of their items. And then they create the case and all the item numbers in our LIMS system.
Okay. We'll go to the next slide. And here it says preparation for analysis. In your report, what does preparation for analysis mean?
It means when I took swabbings or cuttings from each of these items, I took a portion of that item, and so I'm sub-designating the cuttings or the swabbings that I took for each item. So on the left, we have the sample name, and in the middle is what the parent item is, and then we have the sub-designation of what I made of the cuttings or the swabbings I took from those items.
Okay. So if you take a swab of, say, item B, which is the Bart Halderson blood standard from the medical examiner office, you take a cotton swab and then you cut something off that swab?
Well, it was a blood standard given, so I just cut a portion of the dried blood standard, and then I sub-designated it as B1.
Okay. So some of the original remains?
Original blood that was given to me, yes.
Okay. And when we sub-designate something, and again, we'll go through this one a little bit more carefully, and I think everyone will get the hang of it in a second, but when we sub-designate something, is it always carry that same letter and then add usually either a number or a letter to it?
Either, depending on what the parent item is, so in this instance, there's item B, so the sub-designation would be B1, and then for the portion cut from the left leg tissue. The item was K1, but the sub-designation I made was K1A.
After you prepare them for analysis, I imagine you do some sort of DNA isolation?
Yes, we called, this is the quantification results that we got from the items that I did the DNA extraction on. And this table just explains the results of those quantitation and whether or not they went on for further analysis.
Sure. So in item B1 and N1, and we'll just use B1 as an example here, meaning it was the blood standard. Here you indicate you found human DNA.
Right. When we do standard extractions, we typically go from extraction right into the amplification stage. We don't usually quantify these standards unless there's a necessity to do it.
That's called commitment?
And
I'm not even mad, I'm just
in the further
impressed.
testing column, it says autosomal STR. What does that mean?
That's the amplification that we use to detect human or DNA profiles from.
When we go to K2A, K5A, and K6A, could you remind us again, based on the report, what were those items where it says, because here it says, of course, human DNA not detected. What were K2A, K5A, and K6A? What were those cuttings of?
K2A was a cutting of reported left thigh tissue, and then K5A and K6A were swabbings of the hollow area of the left and right thigh bones.
Okay. And I made this slide to maybe highlight that, again, going through this one more carefully for the jury. Here you actually had portions of thigh tissue that you were not able to detect DNA on.
That's correct.
And as an analyst, is that something that can be explained, or do you have any comment on how possibly part of a cutting from a human thigh tissue, there was no DNA detectable on that?
The item received, when I examined it, did not really appear to have a lot of pink tissue. It was very whitish in color, and it had a distinct odor to it when examining it, so I knew I would probably have a difficult time of getting DNA recovered from that. Based on my experience, items like those are difficult to recover DNA from due to possible bacterial activity inhibiting the ability to recover DNA.
Okay, so sometimes bacterial activity or things being in the elements and subjected to that can have an impact on whether you can obtain the DNA?
Yes.
Okay, but you were able to identify or find DNA or detect DNA from K1A, which is of the same general items?
K1A was left leg tissue.
Okay, and so next you have some standards. So you have the dry blood standard from Bart Halderson, item B1, and then you have Mitchell Halderson, which you labeled as N1, and you have single source profile. What does the single source profile mean?
When we get the data after amplification and typing the DNA, we interpret the DNA, and we can determine whether the profile is from one contributor, which is a single source profile, or from more than one person, which is a mixture. And in this case, when I was doing the analysis of the data, both of these items appeared to be from single source individuals.
And when we look at the swabbing of the bristles on the electric toothbrush head, and that you say reportedly was used by Krista Halderson, what does that mean when you wrote single source female profile? Could explain that.
So we have the ability in our amplification kit that has one area that we can determine gender. And in this case, females will have an XX and the male will have an XY. And when interpreting this profile, there was only the
They just
X
taste like bland
for the gender,
cereal.
indicating it was a female single source profile.
In my opinion.
Moving to the next portion, you start talking about this item K1A, in which you were able to isolate or detect some DNA. Tell us what this section of your report means.
So the result is that I got a partial single source female profile, which means I didn't get a complete profile, but I got a pretty good profile from it. Out of the 23 markers that we do amplification on, I had 22 of them, and so that makes it a partial profile. And then I compared that partial profile to the swabbing to the profile I got from the swabbing of the electric toothbrush head, and Krista Halderson was considered the source of that profile.
And understanding at that time, identifying Krista Halderson and her remains was important. Did you then use the buccal swab or the single source profile from the reported son, Mitchell, as well as what you knew to be Bart, to try to come to some sort of conclusions as well?
Yes, I did a paternity to determine whether or not those remains could also be the possible biological mother of Mitchell Halderson, knowing that Bart Halderson was the biological father. And it was at least 413 billion times more likely to observe the profile from Mitchell Halderson if the female profile detected from the left leg tissue is his biological mother than if it's a random unrelated female unrelated female is the mother.
Fair to say a good part of this report was simply determining the sources of the DNA. So you had Krista, Bart, Mitchell, and eventually you obtained Chandler Halderson's DNA, correct?
Yes.
You then wrote another report on September.
Oh, another report. However, we're going to pause on that other report for a couple reasons. One, I want to show you guys something, and two, my back's killing me. It was heel, and now it's back, which is just fantastic. To the point in which one is probably going to throw in the towel on mascotting. It's a young man's game, and I am no longer that. So, all right. So, if you're interested in the Discord and Courtyard, sorry, I don't know why it's echoing. Other than, hold on. How about now? No echo? Hopefully that's a little better. I muted a separate input, but I don't know why that would impact it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, good. Cool. So that's what that was. Great. Just to give you an idea of what's coming up, there's a lot going on in Courtyard. So click on that link. Join us. Obviously now we've got Night Court. Any live stream from True Crime and Wine Time is always going to be in the event list. Also, tomorrow at 9:30. These are all Eastern time because that's where I'm at. It will automatically switch to yours if you check it. True Crime Tuesday, we're going to be doing I think it's a 4-part series called Last Call, When a Serial Killer Stalked Queer New York. It's Pride Month, and so a lot of our stuff has been focused on that, so it's very thematic. Then tomorrow at 6:30, 49 Pulses, the Pulse nightclub documentary. Tomorrow at 8 is Tu Wong Fu. Wednesday at 2 is Wig Snatch Wednesday. I might do that one a little longer because we're not having a cartoon, coffee and cartoons in the morning. So I might extend that from the morning until the afternoon. So we'll be doing that. Thursday at 7, Criminal Minds Evolution. So we'll be playing episodes of that. And then Thursday at 8:30, we have True Crime and Wine Time Live. And we're going to be doing Celebrity Crimes, where we are covering Laura Bush and Lori Loughlin. That's going to go well. Friday, June 14th, 6:30 p.m. is Reality TV Fantasy League. So check that out as well. And then at 8 p.m. Friday, June 14th, is RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars. Saturday at noon is Schitt's Creek Saturday. Sunday at 8 p.m., House of Dragons Season 2 premiere. And that gets us into the next week. So you can see there's a lot going on in the Discord. So I would definitely check all of that out. I think you'll like what we have to offer, like for sure. The other thing is if you have a hard time finding the events, because on phone they've totally changed it, you can go into our event calendar, and that's going to have a link to it's going to have all of the things that we've got scheduled, and all the things that are coming up and have gone in the past. So you can check that out as well. So thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. We've got a lot coming. There's just a lot happening, and I'm psyched to keep it growing. So join in on the ground floor, eh? Hit the courtyard button. Join us. You will not regret it. So thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, your friends, your family, and your community. Don't let anybody dull your sparkle, and shine on, you crazy, crazy diamonds that I love so very much. Shine on. I will see you all in the Courtyard Discord, or Thursday for True Crime Wine Time. Oh, please don't. Oh my gosh, don't let me forget. I'm not gonna forget. Midday Missing is Mondays and Wednesdays at noon Eastern. Sorry, noon Central, 1 Eastern. Midday Missing, noon Central, Mondays and Wednesdays. So tune in. When you need a break, tune in. Terry is going to be going through lesser-known missing cases, giving you the information, and putting the call out there for people if they know anything to know. So the more people watch it, the more that gets out there. It's much better that way. So help us out. You can do it just by hitting play when Terry goes live. So I'll see you guys in about 5 minutes in the Courtyard Discord, or on Thursday, particularly for me. All right, everybody, you have a good night. Stay safe.